What will you learn on the CSP SM course? The Certified Scrum Professional course is a deeper dive into Agile. So like the ACSM, I've broken it into 4 separate parts. A bit of theory, coaching and facilitation, service to the team, service to the product owner, and beyond the team, both scaling and organisational change. Unlike the ACSM, however, we focus more on the lean elements. Where does Agile come from in terms of lean? What is lean? How does it work? And that runs through the whole course. So the theory is focused on just that. Where does lean come from? What's its history? What are the tools, the techniques? What are those key words? Things like Kaizen that pop up. What do they mean? We cover that to understand, yes, our history, to build that credibility because we have resources, but once again, to steal the tools and techniques of those who have come before us. There's some really great thinking in the lean space, lean manufacturing as well as lean software. Why don't we make use of those? So it's a dive into all of that history and theory. We move on to coaching and facilitation, whereas in the ACSM, it's about a simple introduction to coaching. The CSP is more focused on professionalising that way of thinking, that way of working. So we may do a bit of practice, but we're also going to focus on creating the right contracts for a coaching conversation, what needs to be in and what needs to be out, and make it very explicit so that when you work with people, they know what a coach is, what you're there to do, and really importantly, what they're there to do. For the facilitation side of things, we look at the tools and the techniques for, I find it quite funny now, remote working. Okay, what's working, what's not? It's an opportunity to share. If you've spent the last 18 months, 2 years on Zoom, what have you learned? What are the tools that are out there that have really helped you? What's the ways of facilitating online? Okay, it's mostly to explore that space and start questioning, does it all have to be in person? How can we facilitate a great meeting over webcams? Can we get people involved? What are the rules of the game? Questions like that you will likely come across every day in the current climate. Service to the team is really where I focus most. This is what the question that I'm trying to answer is very simple. Can you take a group of people and create an amazing team from a standing start? For me, that's really the linchpin of the course. Do you have the knowledge and the skills to sit there and think, yes, I've got a group of people, this is what I'm going to do, and have the skills to turn those workshops, those training courses, those briefings, those whatevers into fact? So that's what we focus on. How do you set up a team? What are the tools and the techniques that they need and that you need to use to help them work through it? How do we move teams forwards through things like the team performance curve by Katzenbach and Smith? How do we recognise the stages people are at? How do we consciously choose to use those models to understand where people are and what the steps are to help them move forwards, to keep pushing our teams towards true performance? Service to the product owner. This at the CSP level is a really interactive section. It might be that we introduce a key skill, something like user story mapping. But what I often find is people know that, and while we will teach it, if that's where the audience wants to go, the participants want to go, what I find most useful is the part where we have an open discussion. You bring the problems, the questions, the ideas you have around product ownership to the group, and we sit around and we discuss them. We come up with ways to help you move forwards, new things to think about, maybe some new books, some new videos, whatever it is, to really help you help those product owners in the states they are today. This is about real tangible improvement in your practice as soon as you are back with that product owner. How do you help them do their job better? How do you help them integrate with the team better? How do you help them work with the environment and the organisation better? To close out the course, we move on to beyond the team, both the scaling side as well as the organisational change side. The organisational change is really interesting for me. It's one of the key tools that I use in my consulting and coaching engagements. It's value stream mapping, understanding how people create value as an organisation and how to visualise that in such a way that you can notice where the bottlenecks are, you can notice where potential issues are, more importantly where potential opportunities for improvement are. So we work on that. I've thrown a few tricks about how I use it with things like definition of done, just to give you a few extra pointers, a few new ideas to take away. And then we move on to really thinking about how do people respond to change. So organisational change in terms of the models, things like the Satir change curve, taken from family therapy. How do people respond to a foreign element coming in, new people in the team, a whole new organisation, whatever it is? People respond in very similar patterns. How do we make use of that? Do we recognise it? And how do we leverage it to help people move through the chaos and the uncertainty of change as smoothly as we can? We look at a few other models as well, just to compare and contrast and make sure that you're walking away with a really good idea that there's lots of things already out there to help you understand change, to help you, while it'll never be truly smooth it out a bit. Okay. And through that discussion, we'll also be discussing things like scaling in Agile. I'm more interested in the human elements than answering the next question on safe or less, but we have the opportunity to dive into scaling and talk about how do we get this Agile across multiple teams? How do we help organisations become more resilient, more anti-fragile, the ability to not only survive but thrive in the uncertainty we find ourselves today? So the CSP covers those 5 main areas. I keep the agenda fairly loose because every new group, we have different interests, we have different experiences. And what I want to do is give you the opportunity to get the most you can from the course. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.